grounds in this building an hour west of Toronto seem very far away from a cave near Barcelona, Spain 450 years ago. And yet a spiritual journey begun there by a Basque soldier and nobleman continues here as people today come to search for meaning in their lives and learn to make decisions based on the insights of that man, Ignatius of Loyola. An heir to the tradition of teaching this wisdom, John English is a Jesuit priest, a member of the order founded by Ignatius in 1540. He is one of Canada's leading directors of the Spiritual Exercises, a powerful manual of inner exploration developed by Ignatius. And since Ignatius, the exercises have been the cornerstone of Jesuit spirituality. Now, on the 450th anniversary of the Jesuits, people outside the order find them surprisingly adaptable to their own complex lives. Today, John will meet two of those people. Here in his office, using instructions written by Ignatius himself, he is looking through the New Testament to find those stories in the life of Christ that will move these people to look at themselves in new ways. For the next 5 days, they will faithfully put themselves in the hands of this man.
Temperature has gone up by about 0.5 degrees Celsius over the last 100 years. And that was the CBC News.
Eleanor Morris is the first to arrive. By many standards, this woman leads a satisfying life. Happily married, a mother of 4 children, a part-time nurse. But for the first time, she's having trouble coping. She doesn't really understand what's wrong. She just feels the need for something more. A devout Catholic, she's still a little scared by what these exercises might bring. Yet, with the help of her friend John English, she has agreed to spend the week in prayer and contemplation, hoping to discover a greater challenge in nursing. She's also hoping Ignatius will help her find the deeper source of her malaise.
I think I have a problem that's probably not peculiar to me, sort of 40-ish in age, and are going to be 40-ish. I work in nursing, and I've worked in nursing for 18, almost 19 years. So to some extent, I'm tired of doing what I'm doing, and I guess I'm also maybe wondering if I need some new challenges in the area. Coming here, I was quite nervous and somewhat frightened. I think probably part of it would be the unknown. It's sort of, for me, I think, well, what if God asked me to do something that I didn't think I was prepared to do at this point in my life, if ever? For me, that's frightening.
I would like directions to Ignatius.
Robert Morgan is an actor and a playwright. His star is rising, and he's starting to get work in the more glamorous world of film and TV. But for Robert, success could have a price. He's always tried to balance his need to perform with a social conscience, a strong family life, and he's deeply worried that balance is out of whack. Before he becomes a classic case of burnout, Robert has sought out John English to help him discover if success and fame is what he really wants, or if it's time to slow down, maybe paint, write, or sculpt. Since he heard about these exercises from his wife Susan, who went through an even longer version a couple of years ago, he's been intrigued by them. For a man who needs to clear an almost frenetic schedule and just think about where he's going, the silence and contemplation of Ignatius Cave seems ideal.
I realized through some very specific events, one of which was burnout. I had been proving to myself and everyone who would listen just how effective I could be, you know. And part of that was for pure joy. There was a lot of joy in my work, too. I'm not just saying it was all negative egoism, but some of it was, you know. And what happened was I ran out of energy. I think, and this isn't being facetious at all, I think what I want to do is not to achieve anything. Perhaps for the first time in my life, I'm hoping that I can, in a sense, surrender that desire to achieve. Give up that desire to be successful. And because as I think my gray hair is telling me things are changing, you know, my life is changing.
John English lives here at the Guelph Center for Spirituality with other Jesuit priests and novices. Just down the hall from here, he'll meet with Robert and Eleanor once, sometimes twice a day, over the next 5 days. Despite 450 years of practice, no one is really sure what to expect. John knows that the combination of silence and the vivid images conjured up in the contemplations of events in Christ's life can lead people to moments of great joy, and just as often, great terror. It's his job to be their guide through those moments, and to help them free themselves for greater understanding.
Thank you for this opportunity. The opportunity to be quiet with you, spending some time with you, spending some time with the direction and the guidance of Father John.
I think that what you find with people when they're focusing on a decision is that they're really dealing with something else. But the decision surfaces this. My sense with Eleanor is that there is something else that's working inside her, and it's being expressed in terms of this decision. When the crunch is there, when you have to make a decision, reality comes forward. And in that reality there is a movement taking place, and you're trying then to help them to appreciate the movement. And do you think this movement is from God, or is it from self, or is it from the world beyond you that's not God or yourself, you know?
Earlier this week, I was sort of reviewing back through, and I recalled sort of a period of time I had this winter, this early winter. I think the first time in my life where I really felt that I could be at the edge. I wasn't sure, but I just felt very low. And
Helpless, you mean?
yeah, like I just sort of felt as though I was sort of at the edge, that I wanted, if I sort of let go, I would be kind of...
Have a nervous breakdown? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
I don't sense that anything really destructive will happen here. I'll be listening for that, though, you know, and if I sense that, then I would probably pull back and not continue with this. Soul of Christ, sanctify me. Body of Christ, save me. Blood of Christ, inebriate me. I guess in the case of Robert, a lot of deep healing is necessary, because he's going to gain deeper self-knowledge, even though it's around this decision. I have some concerns that the issue with Robert might be more a healing issue than a decision-making issue.
There were a lot of sexual images there. There were images of violence. There was images of light. Lots of flash. Lots of power. Lots of energy. And so there were times when I would just be fascinated.
We talked a bit about deception, didn't we? Mm-hmm. Did that show up again?
I was aware in this moment of calm, of tranquility, of how much of my false longing, or how much of my longing is for excitement, is for energy, is for power, is for glamour, is for lights, is for action, is for all of that world.
The plain, everyday sounds of the Guelph Center lunchroom can be a deafening roar for people steeped in complete silence. For Robert and Eleanor, the cacophony of daily life is becoming increasingly unreal, and in silence, they're compelled to listen more closely to the voices within themselves. The voice of their director is their only link to the outside, and he is taking them deeper, beyond even the career questions they came to find answers to a place not unlike the cave where Ignatius lived like a hermit to write the exercises. For Eleanor, this is proving exhilarating, even liberating. For Robert, it's turning out to be one of the most challenging times of his life.
I haven't put it together, but I sense that there is definitely change. occurring. There is, in fact, hope for growth here. You know? And whereas before, maybe at the beginning, there were only vague notions of how that growth was going to unfold, I now have a sense I'm in the midst of it, you know? And it's not easy. It's not fun. But it's good.
I think that I've always gone through life with a very set expectation of what I can do and what I can't do. And I haven't been all that desirous of overstepping those boundaries. So a little bit I'm being called forth that maybe it's okay. Just sort of having the strength to sort of move outside whatever my preconceived notions of what my life should be or what I think my abilities are.
How are you doing, Robert?
I'm doing okay.
Are you sleeping all right?
I didn't sleep too much last night.
Getting lots of exercise.
But I got lots of exercise. A lot of exercise, yeah. The wilderness is a pretty big place to go.
All right. He is having some extremely, I think, terrifying experiences. They're really terrifying. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you. I have a sense that he hasn't got there yet, or has not been deeply moved by Christ's love for him. That's in the back of my head. So that's why I think he can get terrified like the way he did, you know, and has no way out of it. Tell me what really moved you in that contemplation.
I had to stop.
Why?
Because the devil asked for my child. Do you want the story of what this was?
Well,
I was protecting my daughter.
and the devil was trying to kill the daughter,
Mm-hmm.
not you.
No, that's right, the devil was.
Okay.
I attacked the devil,
Okay.
and the devil smiled and stepped aside as I swung at the devil, missing the devil and killing my daughter.
Oh, you killed your daughter. Okay, that's what I was trying to get off. All right.
Well,
Now, yeah.
the devil did it. In this image
All right.
where I attacked, it was a wolf. A wolf attacked my daughter. I attacked the wolf, and the wolf moved aside as I swung into its skull.
Do you think Jesus would ask you to kill your children?
Not for a minute.
What might Jesus ask you, though, with respect to your children?
Not to worship them.
Okay.
Worship only God.
You do what you can do, you know, I think. You just try to be present to them. You have to have a certain trust that the Spirit works in the dynamic, in the interchange between two people of faith. I guess that's where I am. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you. Blessed are you among women, and blessed is your fruit of thy womb, Jesus. It's just the opposite with Eleanor. It says Robert's got this active imagination going full blast. When you get to Eleanor, you just have to listen very carefully, and you hear these strange expressions, and then you can try to focus on them. I think that she is quite dissatisfied with her life, and she would like to move out, in a sense. I'm not sure what that means. She wants something new, but she's also frightened of being criticized or non-accepted. And I think if you start to put that stuff together and it gets exaggerated, that could create this fear of a nervous breakdown.
When I did the contemplation of Jesus returning home, I was brought to the scene of being in the church temple with Jesus. And I went up to him with my piece of paper, and I handed it to him. I said, well, I've got some stuff here to do. I'd like you to look at it for me. And he laughed. And just sort of, and handed it back to me and said that I could do it. And I was disappointed. I guess a little put out. I thought it would be so much easier if he could have just sort of helped me.
So you don't have any sense from the contemplation that the Lord is calling you one way or the other.
No.
But you have some sense that the Lord is calling you to responsibility. Is that correct?
I think so.
Yeah, and that it's important that you make your decision with Him, right? Rather than He make it for you.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I just was so surprised when I had the sense of there was sort of kind of a laugh, you know, that he would sort of help me he would make the decision for me.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
Well, I thought that was kind of well, it's probably how I would respond as a parent if my child wanted me to make a decision for them. But I guess I responded as a child too. I was a little put out.
How about afterwards?
It would be the way I would want to do it.
Daily Mass is a part of the retreat, but for all participants, it's a break from the intensity of the exercises. However, it's this quality of intensity that keeps the exercises fresh and relevant. Like the Mass, like any great work of art, they operate beyond dogma or psychological theory. But also like the Mass, they are unapologetically religious. While Robert and Eleanor are trying to figure out practical matters of performing and nursing, they frankly find themselves dealing with the salvation of their souls.
Holy, holy.
That this makes sense in the dying days of the 20th century is testimony to the staying power of Ignatius' own passionate struggle to find meaning in his life.
Hosanna in the highest.
Ignatius of Loyola was a Basque courtier, a soldier, a military man who, after a brief and luxurious life at court, had a religious awakening. He became a pilgrim, a priest, and eventually a saint. It was while he was recuperating from brutal surgery for a leg wound defending Spain from a French invasion that he read the lives of the saints. He became inspired by the idea that he could be a soldier for God. He chose to abandon his courtier's life, renounced all possessions, and set off on a pilgrimage to Montserrat, the holiest shrine in Spain. In nearby Manresa, he spent a year living as a beggar, spending hour after hour in a cave, praying, seeking to understand his relationship with God. In that cave, he began writing the spiritual exercises, and his pilgrimage became a lifelong journey. In 1537, after years of study and reflection, Ignatius and a group of companions were ordained as priests. 3 years later, September 1540, Pope Paul III confirmed the society as a religious order. The words that gave Ignatius the power to fashion one of the most influential forces in history, now in the hands of John English, are giving Robert the power to face pain without turning away, and Eleanor the power to close one chapter in her life and open another.
Hey, Eleanor got some flowers. Now, I noticed a couple days ago, she went into some very serious mourning and grieving, in some sense, what might have been in her life. I tried to discover whether she was angry with God or not. There was a kind of sadness there. Grieving and sadness in themselves are not what we would call a movement of desolation. They could be a movement of consolation. There was a kind of release in her as a result of this.
When I was there, it was like I was putting some of the things of the past behind me. So the things that some of the things I won't kind of get to do anymore. Feeding babies. Rocking babies.
Your own babies, you mean?
I think that I have been aware that there's been a stirring to move on. But some sense of a resistance, the desire to stay rocking the babies. Even though they're too old to rock. And don't benefit from the rocking.
What do you think the Lord was teaching you and telling you in these contemplations?
I feel valuable enough
What else?
that I can do it.
You can do it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a bit weary. I'm not so much tired as weary.
Robert's experience is very difficult to focus on because his imagination just grabbed him, and somehow he tied this in with his children. I think that he was picking up some of his own childhood experience and the fear in himself that he would lose his children. I saw this as quite a temptation from the evil one for him. I tried to help him to see that this was part of a deceptive pattern. I thought another thing that was working with him was an awareness that he has always attempted to escape suffering or to put a happy face on suffering and not really acknowledging that suffering had meaning for him.
I was shown that it was okay
To be sad,
to be sad, to be afraid,
to be in great pain,
to be worthless,
yes,
to be in great pain.
okay. That it was okay for that? Is that what you're saying?
It was more than okay.
Okay, what is the more?
It was the way to go.
All right, Robert, how are you now?
There's the danger of
Hopeful.
elation, being. But there is.
Nice going.
Nice going. Yeah, there's the danger of elation. But I'll go out and ride my bicycle through the tall grass. I'll be fine. And I'm feeling really thankful.
Elation has taken Robert Morgan by surprise. So much has happened to him this week that he almost overlooked the decision he came to make. Yet on this final day, he has rejected a characteristically black and white choice between the bright lights of the movies or the obscurity of the artist's studio. Instead, the exercises have led him to a less dramatic path, similar to what he's doing now, to combine work in theater with writing and still have time for his family. More importantly, he has laid the groundwork for a new way of looking at himself.
It's interesting because often during this week I've overlooked the decision. I haven't focused very much on the decision, expecting this monumental, fundamental, quite glorious change. You know? But in very practical terms, I was looking at some very specific things in terms of what work I would do. And by focusing on the truth of my being and the truth of my deepest desires, it became clear what my answers were.
For Eleanor Morris, the decision is clear. In only 5 days, she has witnessed a major passage in her life. Her vivid experience of Christ's own sacrifice has taught her that even the joys of motherhood must come to an end. Armed with fresh insight, all the worries that had immobilized her have dissolved. And now she has the will to go back to university and get the training she needs to specialize in gerontology. Still, it's difficult closing a satisfying chapter.
I'll always be a mother. However, it was knowing that I was finished with a certain phase, that obvious nurturing, that is so satisfying because it's so obvious. Babies smile at you. You know, they laugh when you come to pick them up and all that wonderful stuff. It was, it was a letting go and just a realization of how good it had been.
I thought that when she got this awareness that maybe she could change her life, Maybe she could control her life. Maybe she could do what she wanted to do. And maybe the Lord was with her in this. Once she got a hold of this possibility, then she was energized by it. My sense is that it's real and that she can do it. And she's going to be surprised. And I think she's got conviction. My sense is that Robert has a lot more work to be done. I have some funny vibes inside myself that he is just too frightened of the film world and the TV world. So I don't sense freedom there. I'm not sure that he is facing the fact that he has great talents and could do great things in the film and television industry. He's kind of so caught in his fear of being deceived by riches, honors, and pride. On the other hand, I think where he is good. And maybe in time, he will gain that freedom. When you give these exercises, you try to see yourself, I think, as an instrument of God's grace with these people, trying to assist them to grow in their relationship to God. And when you see the Lord working in somebody, it is the consolation. Even when they're in desolation, there's a consolation for the director, because the director recognizes that this person is going through quite an experience, and you're privileged to be there.
In the Old Testament, the young King Solomon is devastated by the death of his father, David. Unsure how to proceed, Solomon calls on God. He doesn't ask for riches or long life, but for only one thing: the heart to understand how to discern between good and evil. God grants that wish. And so begins a tradition that inspires Ignatius and continues today in the life and work of John English.